Hi everybody, welcome to today's literacy lesson. We're going to get started straight away with our vocab masterclass. So today's word is true. I'll say it and then you can say it. True. True. Fantastic. So now we're going to break it down into syllables. Those are the beats in the word. So let's get ready to clap and we're going to say the word again. True. 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 It's got one syllable. Well done. So true means based on facts, accurate and reliable. It's not something that is invented or imagined. It is true. So true means based on facts. It is accurate and reliable. And as you can see, I've got a picture of a tick here to remind you of what it means, and a magnifying glass looking for facts, looking for the truth, looking for something that is true. So that is what true means. Can you think of something that is true? For example, it is true that I have brown hair. Is there something true about you? Fantastic. So true is an adjective. What is it? An adjective. Fantastic. But what is an adjective? Tell somebody in the room what an adjective is. Well done. An adjective describes a noun. So it's a describing word. It gives a description of a noun. And I've got an example sentence for you. We're going to read this together with our Kung Fu punctuation and we're going to shout out that target word. Ready? The children loved the story because it was true. Bang. Well done. So the children loved the story because it was true. Now it's your turn. Come up with a sentence using the word true and tell somebody in the room. Brilliant, well done. So maybe you came up with one of these sentences, or maybe you came up with something different completely. Is it true a dinosaur came to school? Asked Lita. So she's asking if something is true. Is it true? It is true that dodos are extinct. It is true that dodos are extinct. So as you can see, this is a fact that somebody is telling us, and that's why it is true. Well done for all your fantastic sentences that you came up with. So now we've got some synonyms and antonyms for the word true. A synonym means the same or similar, and an antonym means the opposite. So other words that are similar to true are correct and accurate. Words that are different to true, that mean the opposite, are false and untrue. I want you to shout out a word that is similar to true. Fantastic, so you might have shouted correct or accurate. Now I want you to shout out a word that is the opposite of true. Brilliant, false or untrue, well done. And now we're just going to recap what we have learned today. So what is our word that we have learned today? True, fantastic. What does the word true mean? I want you to tell somebody in the room. Well done. So true means something that is real, that is backed up by facts. It's accurate, it's true. It's not made up or an opinion. And then the last thing I'd like you to do is say the word true in a sentence. For example, the children liked the story because it was true. Well done. What a great start to our literacy lesson. We're going to go straight on to writing the next part of our story now. Okay. Where did we leave the story yesterday? So I'm going to read yesterday's work. Well, we're going to read it and we're going to use our Kung Fu punctuation whilst we read it. And that was the beginning of our story that we wrote yesterday. Ready? Let's get those Kung Fu punctuation arms ready. Where the bough meets the branch, a cute chick met a small green chameleon and they fell in love. Bang. The chick promised not to change. Bang. Fantastic. Great Kung Fu punctuation. So the story begins with the chick meeting the chameleon, then they fell in love, and we finish by talking about the chick promising not to change. And hopefully that is what you've got in the story you wrote yesterday as well. So that's what we did yesterday. Now we need to think about what is going to happen next in the story. So after the chick promises not to change, what happens? If you can't remember, look at the plan you made on Friday. Read through the plan. After the chick promised not to change, what happened next? Brilliant. So hopefully you've been able to spot that we've written the beginning of our story now. And we're moving on to the middle. So we're going to talk about the chick breaking the promise and the chameleon forgiving them. And as we know, in the original story, that happened 3 times. So we're writing about the middle of the story. Let's have a look at these questions because they're going to help us with our writing today. What did the chick promise to do? I want you to tell somebody in the room what the chick promised. Fantastic. The chick promised not to change. So what happened after he promised that? What happened next? Tell somebody in the room. What happened to the chick? Brilliant, well done. So you might have said something like the chick started to grow feathers, the chick became a hawk, the chick got bigger, the chick got sharp claws, anything like that. And what did the chameleon do because of this? So the chick started to change, and what did the chameleon do? Tell somebody in the room. Fantastic. So the chameleon kept on forgiving the chick, but eventually he couldn't forgive him anymore, and he was really, really upset and crawled away. So I've written the middle of my story and I'm going to read it to you. And I want you to have a think, is this a good paragraph for the next part of the story? And why do you think that? The chick broke his promise. The chameleon forgave him. As you can see, I have used my plan to help me write this. My plan says the chick broke his promise and the chameleon forgave him. And that is what I have written here. Do you think that's a good paragraph, the next part of the story? Why? Tell somebody in the room what you think of my paragraph. Brilliant. So hopefully you're saying things like, it's really boring, it's just been copied straight from the plan, there's no extra information. Well done. So to help me make sure that I've got a really good story middle written, I'm going to use my success criteria to help me. These are on the school website, so you can use this when you're doing your writing as well. So I need to think about what I have done. Have I introduced the problem that the chick keeps breaking his promise? So I've mentioned that the chick breaks his promise, so yes, I have done that. Describe how the problem affects the story and the characters. So the chick breaks his promise 3 times. Will the chameleon keep forgiving him? Well, I've said that the chick broke his promise and the chameleon forgave him. But have I mentioned that that happens 3 times? Have I mentioned that the chameleon keeps forgiving him until eventually he can't forgive him anymore? No, I've not done any of those things. And I've also not explained how the chick broke his promise. I've just said that he did. I've not described the changes that happened to the chick, how the problem affected my characters, what the change was that happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a rewrite of this paragraph to make sure that I include those things. What you might want to do now is pause the video and write down a couple ideas for the things that I could write about how the chick changes. What happens to the chick? Pause the video and write those down now. Brilliant, well done. So I'm going to read you my new paragraph, and as you can see, I have really expanded what I'd written before. So make sure you've got your best listening ears on. I want you to have a listen out for the things that I've included this time. Have I talked about how the chick changes? Have I talked about the chameleon saying, I don't forgive you anymore? Ready? The chick broke his promise and grew feathers. The chameleon forgave him. But the chick broke his promise again and grew claws. The chameleon gave him one last chance. The chick grew bigger and bigger until finally the chameleon left. I cannot forgive you, she shouted. What do you think now? Is this starting to become a more interesting piece of writing? Yes, it is fantastic, but it's still not perfect. We've always got to think about how we can make our writing more interesting for the reader. So this is when I'm going to start looking at this part of my checklist. Have I used adjectives to describe my characters? I've not used any adjectives yet. Have I used expanded noun phrases? Have I used adverbs? Have I used coordinating conjunctions? It's all of this that's going to make our writing more interesting. So I think I'm going to start by adding in some adjectives. The chick broke his promise and grew feathers. I'm going to underline some of the nouns that I think I could add some adjectives to describe. Chick broke his promise and grew feathers. The chameleon forgave him. But the chick broke his promise again and grew claws. The chameleon gave him one last chance. The chick grew bigger and bigger until finally the chameleon left. Okay, I've chosen two nouns, feathers and claws. What I'd like you to do on your piece of paper is pause the video and use some of these adjectives to describe the feathers that the chick grows and the claws that the chick grows. So pause the video and think of some adjectives, or you can borrow these to describe the feathers and the claws. Okay, so as you can see, I've now added some adjectives in. I'm sure you've got some fantastic ones written on the piece of paper in front of you, but these are the ones that I've chosen to go for. The chick broke his promise and grew long stripy feathers. The chameleon forgave him. But the chick broke his promise again and grew sharp, scary claws. The chameleon gave him one last chance. So that is what I've now added into my story. It's already starting to become more interesting. And I've not just added adjectives, I've also made expanded noun phrases because I've used two adjectives to describe each of my nouns, and I've separated them with what piece of punctuation. Fantastic, I've used my commas to separate the adjectives. So I'm going to try using some adverbs as well today. So adverbs describe actions. So the first thing I need to do is find a verb, an action that the characters are doing in the story. So I'm going to read through it again and I'm going to find some verbs. So I've got broke his promise and grew, forgave, broke again, grew again. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of verbs in here that I could use an adverb with to describe those verbs that I've got in my sentence. But I don't want to do it to all of them because then my writing becomes really, really long. It's important when we're writing to choose a few things to add adverbs to rather than every single verb so that our writing still makes sense. So the verbs I'm going to choose are forgave, grew, and shouted. These are the verbs that I have chosen. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick one, forgave, grew, or shouted, and I want you to write an adverb that could go with that. The adverbs are read. So think about how they did that. How did the chameleon forgive him? Did she forgive him sadly? Did she forgive him reluctantly? How did the chick grow? Did he grow quickly? Did he grow slowly? How did the chameleon shout? Did she shout angrily? Did she shout sadly? That's what you need to think about and write down on your piece of paper. I'm going to choose some adverbs to include in my writing now. Okay, let's read through the writing again and listen to how it has changed. The chick broke his promise and grew long stripy feathers. The chameleon reluctantly forgave him. If you're reluctant to do something, it means you don't really want to. So the chameleon forgave him even though she didn't really want to. But the chick broke his promise again and grew sharp, scary claws. The chameleon gave him one last chance. The chick slowly grew bigger and bigger until finally the chameleon left. I cannot forgive you, she shouted angrily. As you can see, I've added lots of adverbs in to make my writing more interesting, so I can now give myself a tick to say that I've done that. I could also include some coordinating conjunctions and some time adverbials at the start of my sentences, but I'm going to leave it there for now because I'm eager to get you started on your writing. So I'm going to stick with the paragraph I have written. I'm happy with it and I'm glad that I've added some adjectives and adverbs to make it more interesting. So now it's your turn. If you're doing the 1-star challenge today, it's very similar to yesterday's challenge. You need to put the words in the spaces. So you need to read it, but the chick couldn't keep his promise. What do I need to have in a black box? An exclamation mark or a full stop? I'm going to use a full stop. If you think it needs to be an exclamation mark, then you can choose to do that. He lost his fluff. Oh, so I'm using time adverbials. So what am I going to say? Am I going to say first he lost his fluff, then he lost his fluff, after that he lost his fluff? Fantastic, I'm going to say first because it's the first thing that happened. But the chick couldn't keep his promise. First he lost his fluff and started to grow feathers. So I'm going to describe the feathers. You can choose any descriptive word to describe, oopsie-daisy, those feathers. And just like you did yesterday, you're going to keep filling in those spaces until you've got a paragraph that is complete. Remember your capital letters and your full stops. So our sentences need to always start with a capital letter. If you're doing the 2-star challenge today, your activity is very similar. However, you need to put them in order just like you did yesterday, and you've got some words missing that you'll need to write in. So what happened first? What happened first? Let's look at our plan to help us. The chick broke his promise. So I'm looking for a sentence that says something about the chick breaking his promise. But the chick couldn't keep his promise. That's my first sentence, so I'm going to move it to the top. What happened to the chick? What meant that he couldn't keep his promise? He grew claws. He lost his fluff and grew feathers. It's your decision which one do you want to say first and put them in the right order. And then lastly, we're going to have the bit that says the chameleon was so upset, she crawled away. And just like with the 1-star challenge, you are choosing words to put in the spaces and you are also completing the missing words in the gaps. Then finally, we've got the 3-star challenge. You've not got the communicating print to support you, but you have got a word map and the success criteria. This isn't labelled as the 3-star challenge on the school website. It is labelled as Year 2 Literacy Success Criteria. And that is what you're going to be using to help you make your story. Remember, you need to talk about how the chick keeps breaking his promise and if the chameleon is going to keep forgiving him. Fantastic. So well done, everybody, for joining in with today's literacy lesson, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.